thanks for joining us here on the CNBC TV 18 special newsmaker. I'm in conversation with Mr. Kapil Sibal, and we intend to talk about a lot of the current issues, including demonetization. So I appreciate you joining us here on CNBC TV 18. You're a lawyer, so you know that both sides can be argued equally successfully, and perhaps that's what we're seeing happen as far as demonetization is concerned. The opposition claims that it's been a disaster. The government says that, look, don't just look at it from the prism of the money that's returned into the banking system. There are other objectives, 8 objectives that the finance minister has articulated, that demonetization has perhaps been a success and will be a success in future as well. Let me just go to the numbers that the CBDT has put out, and then I'll get you to respond to that. Just on the issue of black money, the CBDT says 158% increase in the number of searches, 106% increase in seizures from 712 crores to 1,469 crores, 38% increase in the admission of undisclosed income from 11,226 crores to 15,496 crores, a 44% increase in undisclosed income from 9,654 crores to 13,920 crores. As I said, you can argue both sides.
Well, we shouldn't get lost in numbers. There will be seizures, there will be discovery of black money. It's happened in the past, it'll happen in the future. Question is, this has to go through a whole process of assessments and appeals and High Court and Supreme Court. So I think when those real numbers come on record, then you can claim either success or failure. But that's really not the issue today. The real issue is, what did the Prime Minister say when he announced demonetization? He said that we're going to get rid of black money. He said that this is really a surgical strike on black money. But what really happened was that all that black money that they should have gone after, they allowed a process for people actually to exchange, to launder that black money into the banking system and get it back. So in a sense, the whole demonetization process was a facility to launder money for those who were black marketeers, who had black money. And remember, the rich people got away with it. But 800 million people in this country who earn 10,000 rupees a month have legitimate cash in their hands. And that was also frozen. So you caused untold misery to the ordinary man, and you allowed the rich man to get away with it.
Since you're talking about how this provided a facility to the rich to launder their money, the finance minister's argument, and I'll throw some more data at you, the finance minister's argument is that, look, this is money that's actually now come back into the banking system, and this is now money that we are going to be able to go after. What he has said is that 18 lakh accounts are now under scrutiny, and that the CBDT has actually identified a further 5.56 lakh accounts that it intends to scrutinize, investigate and probe. So his argument is, look, now we know who we're going to be able to go after, and the process of going after them has begun. 2
answers to that. Number one, so he has given up that this was not a strike against black money at all. That means he must now confess that we allowed those people who had black money, without going after them, to allow them to come to access the banking system and legitimize it. So therefore, the original objective to get rid of black money has been lost. And remember this, those who legitimized it through third persons, not themselves. If a rich person had cash in his hand, say 1 crore, he will get 50 other people to have it legitimized. And then that money will go back will become black again, because he'll withdraw that money and give it back in black to the original person who legitimized the 1 crore. So in fact, it's not answering the question at all. In fact, you are giving legitimacy to, in fact, black money through this process.
So, you know, what is done now. In terms of the way forward, what is it that, you know, for instance, the Congress party intends to do on this issue?
Nothing. We will expose them in times to come. There's going to be a parliament session in November. We will ask very serious questions. Why did you do this? You gave 4 reasons to the country, and all 4 have failed. You said fake notes. Fake notes are back. And how much fake notes did you have in the system? 400 crores worth. Of a total amount of 15 lakh 45,000 crores, you got back into the system 15 lakh 28,000 crores. And I dare say the 16,000 crores that has not come back into the system is in perhaps, I don't want to mention it, but perhaps with some neighboring, some of our neighbors and some NRIs. who take black money, who take cash out and want to come back and have something to spend, who couldn't convert, right? So in fact, you probably have more cash in the system than what you envisage. This is a very serious situation. And then you said that you're going to get rid of terrorism. Terrorism is on the rise. You see the number of incidents that have happened ever since this government came into power. So all the objectives that you set out to achieve, you just didn't achieve. And now you are saying we want a cashless society. Where is the cashless society?
Well, less cash now, not cashless. It's a
now
less
it's
cash
now it's less cash.
Less cash.
Well, where is that less cash? Now you say there are 17% increase in digital payments and stuff like that. But what is the tax that you're going to recover? That's ultimately the analysis. The 10,000 people who earn 10,000 rupees a month are continuing to earn, probably less than 10,000 now.
So you will raise this issue in Parliament
very seriously,
in the next session?
Very seriously.
Okay. Let me now move on to other current issues, and let me ask you about what you expect as far as the road ahead on Aadhaar is concerned. We now have the Supreme Court give us that landmark judgment on the right to privacy. What will its implications realistically be for the Aadhaar program? The matter is going to be tried in the Supreme Court. There are two separate issues that will be taken up by the apex court. What should we now realistically expect?
There are two issues here. One is the issue of privacy itself, and the other is the issue of data protection. Now, I think a legitimate argument can be raised that when you come to the public distribution system to target people who should receive the benefit of the public distribution system, you need their Aadhaar number. And I think on that count, I think we all should accept the fact that that's the only way to ensure that the public distribution system does not actually
give it leakages.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So that's one part of it. But when you extend Aadhaar to other activities, it raises issues of privacy, and it also raises the second issue of data protection.
So you think linking Aadhaar to DBT, PDS, etc., government schemes to ensure that there is no leakage in the system or less leakage in the system, you're fine with that?
No,
and that does, it suffices the public good objective that the Supreme Court has also
Exactly.
stated,
So I don't think the Congress party or any of us should stand up and say that this is bad for the system. I think this is good for the system. But when you come to have to give your Aadhaar number to your airlines, right, or Aadhaar number to your mobile phone operator, right, to your service provider, that raises very serious questions, because without a data protection law and breach of the data protection law and the consequences that people will have to suffer, without that being put in place, it's a very dangerous scenario for the issues of privacy. So I think that's why the Sri Krishna Committee has been set up. By December, the Sri Krishna Committee will give its report as to what is the kind of data protection law. Then each of the players in the system, whether it's airlines or any other private enterprise or the banking system, will have to actually adopt the data protection law, put it in the public space, then it will be scrutinized.
It's an important point that you make. So how does it change the landscape as far as non-state actors are concerned?
It changes the landscape. Even non-state actors will have to have a data protection law. Because take, for example, Google, right, or any of the platforms that we have. We need a data protection law. How do we know that our data is not being actually accessed by other people? So that needs, and not just data protection law, they have to commit themselves to that law, and there should be systems in which somebody can go and complain for violation of that law, and then penalties should be imposed. These are very serious matters, because government can actually, the other issue is, I, for example, go to a hospital, and I reveal a government hospital, and the government hospital makes me fill my form and what is wrong with me physically, right? Now that's private. It's between me and the government hospital. Can another government agency access that? If I go to the income tax department and furnish my return, they know my income. Can another department of the government of India access that? Because that's confidentiality between me and the income tax department. These are very serious issues that are going to have to be adjudicated in times to come.
So, which means that each of these issues, there will have to be case law, will have to be dealt with on a case-by-case basis.
Supposing somebody comes to search my premises, and the information that they have is that I have got 2 gold bars in my house. But when they come into this house, they start rummaging everything. They start looking at my wife's correspondence. The issue is this not a violation of privacy? Now, these issues could not have arisen before, because privacy was not a fundamental right. But these are issues now. Therefore, the extent of searches the discretion of the officer concerned in the context of a search. All these issues are at large.
I want to talk to you now about another case that you were involved with, and that is the triple talaq matter, where we've also seen the Supreme Court give its judgment. In a conversation that you and I had just a short while ago, you said that the Supreme Court intervening in this matter would be a slippery slope. Now, the fact is that the Supreme Court has given its judgment. It has said that triple talaq in one instance is unconstitutional, it's invalid. Now the talk about moving towards a uniform civil code. Given the verdict that we have seen from the Supreme Court, what windows does it open up outside of this particular
Well, you know, there are two aspects of the judgment perhaps most people don't know about it. The first aspect is that this form of triple talaq, which was not even looked upon positively by anybody in this country, including the Muslim Law, Personal Law Board. And we said in court that now in the Nikah Nama, we'll include a particular provision that will set out that the woman is entitled to say that I am not going to accept triple talaq, and the man, if he wants to marry her, will have to be subject to that condition. That's one part of it. And I think this is a declining practice, or only about 0.44% of the Muslim community exercise this form of triple talaq. And the reason why two judges held it to be unconstitutional, one judge said that it doesn't have sanction from the Quran, not because it's unconstitutional, right? And the other two judges said that though it's part of personal law, yet we injunct it for a period of 6 months till Parliament legislates. So in a sense, all five judges said the same thing, that this particular form of triple talaq is not good, and I think we must accept that. The problem is that other two forms of triple talaq and other parts of personal law of the Muslim community have now been protected by the majority, by Justice Kurian agreeing with the Chief Justice as well as Justice Nazir that personal laws cannot be interfered with, and it is a violation of the fundamental rights of the community. So therefore, there is no way forward. Because if you want to have a uniform civil code, then you will have to justify as to how you can interfere with personal law, because the majority judgment of the Supreme Court says you cannot. Right? And if there is, of course, a movement throughout the country that personal laws of all communities must be looked at afresh, I don't think that this government or any government will dare do that. Because the kind of, see, the problem with these issues is patriarchy. Right? It's the issue of patriarchy that is prevalent in every community.
Yes, unfortunately.
Right? That has to be attacked by all of us together. Unless you deal with that, unless women become, you can stand on their own feet, become educated or emancipated, you have to break down the social structure that encourages patriarchy. And unless we do that, we're not going to get any reform.
So, speaking of reforms, you said that demonetization is going to be an issue that the Congress intends to raise in the next session of Parliament. You know, what is the political strategy now of the Congress party, Mr. Sibal? I mean, what should we realistically expect of the Congress as an opposition?
I think my suspicion, and I think hopefully it should come out at some stage or the other, because somebody honest in the system will reveal it, that when this conversion took place, it could not have been done without the consent of the banking system and without the consent of the political system. And when I mean the political system is the BJP, because they are the ones who are in power. Which means that they were in fact participating in perhaps the biggest scam that has happened in the history of India, by conversion of black money into white, in which they were participants. I pray to God that some honest officer tells the truth to the people of this country. And if it does, all hell will break loose.
Outside of demonetization, what else is going to be part of the strategy as far as the Congress is concerned?
I think we must work on the ground. In fact, I am very, very disturbed by the fact that in the recent elections, very recent elections, in Delhi, for example, in Bhavana, we were number 3. And we are ecstatic about the fact that our vote share has gone up. I don't think that a national party should sort of pat itself on the back and say that, you know, our voting share has gone up.
You're disappointed. People like Jairam Ramesh talk about the existential dilemma and existential crisis that the Congress finds itself in. But then why is it that senior leaders of the Congress party, like yourselves, like Jairam Ramesh, are not able to change the narrative, are not able to actually articulate what the strategy is going to be going forward?
This has to be a collective exercise, and all of us, I think that all congressmen, young and old, experienced and not so experienced, and some of the young are very, very, very good in our party. I think all of us would get together and ask ourselves the question: is this the Congress of 1950?
When is this introspection? When is this moment of sort of consultative, participative democracy going to result in a decision?
It will come about. It has to happen. Nobody can stop it, because Congress party is not just a political party. It is a movement.
It doesn't look like either a movement or a political party today.
It may not. But I think that we need to energize the party by going back to the principles on the basis of which Congress stood, and that sense of self-sacrifice.
Any time before 2019, you think?
I think immediately.
Immediately?
Immediately.
Is there something that is being worked on at this point in time?
It's not a question. I think that all right-thinking congressmen are thinking about this and saying to themselves, it's time for the Congress to fight, and fight on the basis of ideology, and we will not let this legacy
leadership
down. No matter what happens, we will not let this legacy. So leadership comes from the party, right? And those issues will also be resolved. I have no problems with that. But I think we must sustain the legacy of the Congress party.
Is it time for a change of leadership?
Well, I'm not going to say, don't get me involved in individual questions.
Okay.
That's not the point. But it's time for us to regain the legacy of the party.
And you believe...
To revitalize it, to re-energize it.
And you think that this is likely to happen...
It has to happen.
But you feel confident about it? Because as
I'm confident.
People like you, people like Mr. Ramesh, people like Mr. Chidambaram have been talking about this,
yes,
but yet
I'm confident.
We haven't seen any changes on the ground.
I'm confident it'll happen.
You're confident it'll happen?
I have no doubts about it.
No doubts about it. Kapil Sibal, always a pleasure speaking with you. Many thanks for joining us here on the CNBC TV 18 Newsmaker for today. Well, that was the former Law Minister and the former IT Minister as well, Kapil Sibal. We'll take a quick break. When we return, there's a lot more here on CNBC TV 18. Stay right there.